Well, hello everybody, and welcome to the Sunday evening version of our sound excursion here for a different way of looking at a vinyl shootout. I've got my friend Brad here, and he's joining me, and we're going to tell you the story of how we got together and how we decided to do this, and a little bit of the story behind it. And then we'll get into our findings of what we had. So I'm going to wait a few minutes to get a few people in here. I see I've got a note already from someone. Not sure if we're into pressings at all. Every collector out there is begging for a reissue of the Ludwig Master. Yeah, I think that's obviously been the case for a while, but as you know, even when repressings were done of this in an audiophile way, they didn't use those. So I tend to think that they don't exist or that they don't intend for that to happen directly. Now, if at some point someone asks Bob Ludwig, who is still with us, to simulate what he did or something, maybe that might happen. But I don't know that the originals, plates and all, yeah, for all I know, they may have been taken out and destroyed because that was a big controversy at the time. And the head of Atlantic did not want that coming out again. So anyway, hello, Small Axe. Thanks for joining. And so what we're going to be doing this evening is going through two different MOFI releases. One that I did a comparison on, and then Brad did a different comparison on. And we literally swapped our versions of records to do this. And I'll kind of let Brad talk about what triggered it on his end, but I know he knew I was a Fagen fan and that I had done a Nightfly shootout already, but it was like unfortunately I didn't have the one step. So Brad, Brad's out of Lubbock. You want to say hello and introduce yourself a bit and pick up on the story?
Yeah, sure, David. Brad calling himself Vital Rush because I'm a huge Rush fan.
There you go.
I have been since like 1979, I guess.
Yeah.
And I've just been, like everybody else here, I think a fan of the VC and love watching great channels like David's and had watched. It was I think it was your Fleetwood Mac, the original.
Oh yes.
Well,
Yeah.
the first,
The
actually the first,
self-titled.
the self-title with Stevie Nicks and Lindsey Buckingham when they came on board,
Right.
and I had been aware of the MoFi that was out there, and I actually have the OG pressing, but that's the Ken Dunn recorder master. And I think you hadn't included that, or your OG that you had was not
Was
a
not a
Ken
Ken
Dunn.
Dunn. Right. It wasn't a Ken Dunn.
Yeah, and so I was aware of that pressing from Tim at University of Vinyl, who, if you're not a fan of his or not aware of his channel, it's excellent. He does a great job, and he's got a
Yep.
really good series on mastering engineers, actually several
Absolutely.
several different ones.
Yeah, and Steely
And that
Dan's
was a
got a great
record that
series
he
on
fit.
Steely Dan too. Yeah, he's got some
Yeah,
great
yeah.
series. Yeah,
So when he featured Ken Dunn recorders, the Fleetwood Mac self title was one of the ones that he says. So I just reached out to David and I said, hey, I've got a Ken Dunn master of the OG Fleetwood Mac. I'll send it to you, and you can kind of redo your shootout. See if you see how does this stack up with the MoFi. And that's really kind of how it started. I mean, how we kind of
yep,
developed a relationship, and it kind
exactly.
of went from there.
Yeah, yeah, it did. And so he shipped that to me actually, and I got that and did basically did the comparison. I definitely found it was much better than the OG that I had. But I still feel, the mobile fidelity of that is still, to me, is the best pressing that I've heard of it and that I have of it. But definitely, it goes to show you there is a difference between OGs. Even like Santa Maria presses are usually pretty strong, pretty high quality. Those that are done there. So anyway, it's really good to have this kind of relationship. But we kind of took it further because Brad was coming into town, And so we met up and went to some record stores, and he said, "Hey, why don't I, if you want to, do a shootout on Nightfly with, I've got the One-Step. I'll loan it to you, and you can do that." And I said, "Oh, gee." I was a little nervous about handling a record that's worth that much that's out there, and but I did, and he did. He brought it, and I said, "Hey, I've got. I'd like you to do something. I've got." And he said he had the One-Step Tapestry from Carole King, and I said, "Hey, I've got the original Mobile Fidelity that they did of this too, and I'd like you to compare it." To see how well you think it stacks up to the One-Step, because there's been some back and forth on that, and I'd like to get a second opinion. So I brought my version of that and gave him also a CBS half-speed Master Sound series of that as well to compare. So we said, hey, why don't we just do a shootout, do a live conclusions, something maybe that hasn't been done before. And so that's why we're here, and that's what we're doing. So for those of you, thanks for joining. So what we're going to do is start with showing you the equipment we used for this. And I think that way you can at least know what type of equipment was used. So I'm not as adept at this as some people who do it every day, every morning. But I'm going to go ahead and do my best at sharing my screen here. And there we go. Let's see if that comes in. Yeah, there it is.
Yep.
Looks like it might have come in there. So let me get my
Yep,
mouse
looks good.
going over there. Okay, come on, mouse, move over. All right. So this is the equipment that I used, and you're going to see that Brad has much better equipment than I do, but okay. So
I wouldn't say that.
I would. A dual 1245, a vintage dual 1245 turntable, and a cartridge is Accutex 410E. They're an older brand that isn't around anymore out of, I think, Germany, and really sweet sounding cartridge. And then I have a Gramslee, a Gram Amp 2 special edition. And so we're showing you these. I was talking about this earlier with Brad. I said I'm showing the pictures of the things that are most important, which are your transducers, meaning kind of your cartridge and your speakers. We're not going to show pictures of our amps and things because that's kind of like middleware as we see it. So I use an integrated amp, which is an NAD 3140, a vintage amp. And then my speakers are Polk Audio RTA 11 TLs. And then when I do listening through headphones, I use a Sony MDR V6 because I do some comparison in with headphones as well. And so that is my equipment, and I'm going to leave it at that for now because I want to bring up Brad's when we start to talk about yours, so we don't get all mixed up. So
Cool.
My job was to so I'm going to do mine first. Brad's going to follow. My job was to compare the Nightfly, and in doing so I had several versions here, so I'm going to now share with you what those were. So we have the Mobile Fidelity One-Step 2x45, which originally cost $100, and the median price of one right now is about $435 in the market. And then we compared it to the 33 RPM original master recording of Mobile Fidelity, and it went for $30 originally, and it's going for about $162 or $168, whatever the heck that is. It looks really small on my side. I can't see it, but it's also got. If you look at the ratio, it actually has gone up more in a percentage than actually the One-Step did, believe it or not. But anyway, so that's that one. I also compared it to the Japanese, which if it was 2,500 yen, which we said what was about $18 in today's dollars.
About $18, yeah, today.
And it's going for about $44 on median for Japanese. And then I have the U.S. press original, the EU, and Netherlands OG, and they're all the same master disc record, just pressed. As a matter of fact, the Japanese is a master disc plate as well. And I then also compared that with a 2012 Chris Bellman cut. So, so that's basically the ones that I used for comparison's sake. So, so let me pull up my findings. And so we looked at it through the lens of comparison. Now, Brad had a, I'm the only one involved in my comparison, but he had multiple people involved in his, which is really interesting. And so I played these basically back and forth, doing samplings of key songs on these albums, and really IGY and New Frontiers, of course, are the two strong ones off of the album The Nightfly that really represent the most listened to parts that I compared. And so when I compared these, one of the first things I did was always try to sound match, level match with the dB meter of these records one to each other. And when doing so, I noticed right out of the box, after I played a little bit of the US versions and the European version and then the mobile fidelity, that the one step was a bit louder, which is unusual because the one steps are usually a bit quieter than their counterparts, at least the newer one steps. Now, this was, I think, the third one step that came out.
Fourth.
Fourth. So we hypothesized, are they trying to get their footing? What was going on? This, of course, is a digital source recording right from the jump. So its transformation really didn't have an analog to digital. It actually had a digital to analog at the end to get it to the cutter. So, can't really guess why. But the point is, it was about 2 dB louder than the other pressings. The actual mobile fidelity one was -2. It was quieter than the US, European, and Japanese. So all of the ones that were the master disc RL, meaning Robert Ludwig, and those were the US and the EU and the Netherlands and the Japanese, they all had that plate and stamp on it. So basically, the biggest difference there was going to be probably the pressing plant and maybe, in fact, the quality of the vinyl, of course, that was used as well would be the variable. Because their sounds were very, very similar across the board with the RL Master Disc ones. The biggest advantage went to the Japanese because it had the quietest vinyl. The surface noise on it was the lowest, followed by the Japanese was lowest, then the US and the EU, and then the UK one was the worst, the noisiest vinyl of them. So basically, when we rank them, the Japanese was the best, and their sound was very, very similar overall. So it wasn't a lot of distinction there. Now, when we put on the Mobile Fidelity's original release of this album, not the one step, again, it was about 2 decibels quieter, so we had to level match that. And the imaging had really strong precision to it. That was very noticeable immediately. And it really just had a real smooth sound to it. And for me, it was it meshed really well with the way it was recorded. In other words, it didn't have any of that digital signature kind of sound to it, and so it really was smooth, and it kind of just wasn't fatiguing, and it was kind of, it's the old mama bear, papa bear, baby bear. It was just right.
Just right.
It really had a sweet spot. So now when I put on the one step after that, the first thing I noticed about the one step was at the beginning of the first track, I heard pre-echo. And pre-echo means that you're hearing the lead in to the first groove. You're actually hearing part of the sound of that lead-in material, whether it's vocal or musical or whatever. You're kind of hearing an echo of it ahead of time. And I noticed that, and I thought, what? Why would you have that? Why would you have that on a 45 RPM? Because the grooves can be farther apart and everything. And
especially a one-step.
Especially a one-step. So I'm going to be really interested to hear if Brad picks that up when he gets it back. If he gets it. No, I'm just kidding. No. When he gets it back, to see if he experiences that too. But that was the first thing that kind of caught me. But immediately, once it did start, which it's 45 RPM, it started pretty quick. I was like, whoa, that's loud. Boy, that was really caught me like I didn't expect it to be. So I had to calibrate for that. And the precision on it was, I made the initial statement of epic precision. The precision, and then after I listened a while, some of that precision got a little fatiguing to me. And because of that, it was like, gee, are they, is it too much? Is it over the top? And so that really was something that for me, it started to be a bit bothersome. So I went back to the original mobile fidelity and played it up at put it up to the same volume type level. And again, it had that smoothness, it didn't have that kind of feel to it. And it was almost as if, I don't know, pushing the boundaries or whatever you want to call it. And, we had this discussion, Brad, about how when something's louder, sometimes people think it sounds better because it's, it's more present, and it really just, it's kind of that, that manly kind of sound, but again, it was a bit fatiguing, and I didn't have that on the originals at all as well. And that was a digital source, but realize this thing was digital times 2, really, right? If they go DSD after the step. So, after they bring it down. So anyway, I just really felt things got a bit harsh, especially on the higher end instruments. I started to feel like there was just a harshness there. So I listened there, put that down, did some comparisons between that and the MOFI, kind of established that pattern. I said, yeah, this is kind of a pattern. So then I pulled out the 2012 Chris Bellman cut. And I said, whoa, boy, this sounds really good. This sounds like the original MOFI. This is getting close to that without any of the push or the force on it. It was really kind of the sweet spot at a lower price, I guess, like a $30 album or whatever. And I was really kind of put back. I'd say the only thing about it is, of course, it didn't have quite as quiet a surface as the mobile fidelity did. It was about +1 on the dB. It was a little bit more than the American and Japanese, but it wasn't as much as the one-step was. Yeah. And so it really had that great, strong precision. It had where I would say that the one-step would hit you when a bass notes or drum kicks hit. They hit me more in the lower gut. The Bellman hit me more toward the center of the gut kind of feel. It was just that kind of thing.
It's a good descriptor.
Yeah. And so it was almost like I'm glad they didn't go any lower. But anyway, it was almost like the one-step was reaching, just kind of how low can you go? It was reaching a bit, So it just had that. So, I mean, when I really look at it, first of all, I would say dollar for dollar, that Bellman 2012 release is just unbelievably good, dollar for dollar. And, the MOFI is very solid. The MOFI, you got to crank up, of course. But if you want to hear the artistry and the precision, and because the surface noise is less there as well, that's a good way to get there. I just couldn't, and I played it again yesterday. The One-Step. I said I'm going to give it one more listen after a week or so, and I just said I kind of put it down, and I just and I really had much of the same kind of feeling, and I played it on two different tables with different cartridges, of course, but it still had much of that same flavor to it. So, for me, my thing has been I want to buy this. I want to spend that big buck, and I don't know if I will. I mean, I really felt like the original Mobile Fidelity really had the smoother kind of a presentation. Now, if you like something with some grit and some low gut and some sharp brights to where almost if it doesn't bother you, I think it's going to be fine. But for me, there's a point at which, and it isn't semblance, it isn't that kind of bright. It's just there was a few cowbell hits that were like it was just like banging in your head almost kind of thing,
Yeah.
It was almost like it was too precise. I mean, I hate to put it that way, but I don't know what other way to put it. And I mean, that's you think that's what you want, of course, and it is. But when it's a little bit uncomfortable, and maybe it's my equipment, maybe it's not good enough. I don't know. I can't say. But for me, for me, I would say I'm really happy with the MOFI that I have, and I'm happy with the Bellman. And I would tell you, if you really want a great pressing of this and not spend an arm and a leg, the Bellman cut is the one to go try to find. There are some out there. There's not a lot, but I'm just saying it was an afterthought. I think I told you I had it in my sealed albums.
Yep.
I forgot I had it. Totally forgot I had it and hadn't even opened it. So I hadn't planned on doing any kind of a comparison with it. But I was looking for something else, and I went, and I remember when I first went across it, I went, man, is my brain thinking about the Nightfly so much I'm seeing things? It's like,
Is this real?
yeah, right. It was because it was kind of pushed back a little bit. It wasn't at the front. I couldn't see the spine. I looked and I pulled it out, and I went, I'll be damned.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting because I mean, that's one of the reasons why I wanted to, share it with you, because I heard you say on one of your videos that, the One-Step Nightfly is one of your grails. And I thought, well, if nothing else, you could eliminate it. You could, do the shootout and say, well, golly, I just saved a bunch of money because it's not as good,
Yep.
So
Exactly.
But
so that's kind of my impressions. And so what I'm going to do now is we're going to go through Brad's system, and we're going to talk about what he has. You can talk about it as I go through here, Brad.
Yeah, I was going to say, yeah. So this is my modest system. I've had it for a few years. It's a VPI classic turntable with a classic 3-tone arm with an Ortofon 2M black LVB 250. That's pretty much the top of the line of the moving magnet cartridges within the Ortofon line, and actually went from a blue to this one, and it was way better. So if anybody's thinking about doing that, you'd be better served with that if that's something you're interested in. The phono stage is the Parasound Z Phono XRM. I really like the Parasound stuff. My preamplifier is a Schiit Freya S. I didn't go with the Plus because I just didn't want to go down the tube rabbit hole. And amp is also Parasound. It's the new Classic 2125 version 2. I think it does 225 watts per channel into 4 ohms. So that's why I selected the 4 ohm version of the Tecton Design Zenzo XLs. Really, really like those speakers, really solid. And I augmented with a SVS subwoofer. I think it's the SB2000 Pro. And then I try to use balanced connectors all the way through from Blue Jean cables. I really like those. A lot of bang for your buck. So if anybody's looking for good cables that won't, break the bank, those are fantastic.
So he's forever in blue jeans, no Neil Diamond. By the way, so there's something unique about that system. What is it? It's all made.
It's all American made,
It's
yeah.
all
Except for is that for the Ortophon? That's in
Or if
Denmark, I
obviously,
think.
yeah, right, okay.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
did want to address this one. Like the Nightfly, I can't even pronounce that.
Oh, it's
Kamakirat has
Kamakiriad, I
better.
think.
Yeah, I yeah, I get it. That's I want to get a audiophile version of that. That's one that I would like to see, and maybe with Chad's relationship with Donald Fagen, that may be coming. I need to ask him that. That's
I
my
think
next
there's
question
only
to
been
Chad.
one vinyl pressing of that
I think
ever.
so.
I think
Yeah,
it's
I
pretty
think you're
hard
right.
to come by. I think. Yeah,
Yeah, it is pretty pricey. So let's
yeah,
talk about what you compared.
yeah. So yeah, so so this is Carole King Tapestry. I think most folks are pretty familiar with this album and Carole King. This was her second studio album she put out in 1971. It was a four times Grammy winner. It went 14 times platinum. I think most people know it again. Came out in 1971. The funny thing is, I was telling David this the other night that this is one of those artists, and I'm sure everybody has these as well, that you know the songs, but it's like when you hear them, you go, I don't know who this is, but I kind of like it. And the funny thing is when the One Step was announced, I kind of went, well, golly, maybe I should listen to that. They're doing a one step of it. Maybe it's pretty good. And so, as you know, this album is just hit after hit after hit after hit. And so, played it with my family, like, oh, I know this one. Oh, I know this one. It was just over and over again. And that's kind of how I got, turned on to the album. Again, I'd heard the songs forever, but just never put two and two together that it was Carole King and it was this album. So just a little bit of background there.
Sure.
And so this is the One Step you see on the left. This is when they were still I think they were still $100 at the time. And by the way, David, the Nightfly was the third One Step. I correct myself. You're
Okay.
right.
Yeah, and I think this was 125. I didn't edit that properly. That's a 125 on this.
Okay.
And I
Okay.
don't think it's 430. I got to look. I don't think it's 435, but I'm going to double check that too. I think
Okay.
it may be on a copy paste issue from Fagen, but go ahead.
Okay. Yeah, no problem. And then the comparison was with the, sort of the original MoFi 33 RPM version that David had, actually. I don't have that one. And then finally, I guess on the next slide there will be
Trying to
the,
get there.
yeah, there it is. The CBS Half Speed Master that came out, I think, in 1980. And as folks know, there was a digital step in the CBS Half Speed Master series, and keeping in mind this was in 1980, so we're talking about very crude digital at the time. So keeping that in mind.
Good point.
So
That's a good
so
point. That all the CBS half speeds had a digital step in them. That was their. And at the time, I was telling Brad, I remember it was like, ooh, because everything when you said digital back then, it was like, oh wow, great, that's the new thing. Oh yeah,
yeah,
nobody's like, oh, that's destroying analog. That wasn't. Everybody was just kind of at the time. It was kind of like a wave,
hmm
digital is better, kind of thing. But they did it 1980. They were using. I mean, CDs didn't come out till '83, so we're talking probably beta equipment.
yeah,
And given CBS Sony relationship, it probably was. They're
hmm
and
that's probably
probably
true.
testing the water on us all. So okay, go
Yeah,
ahead.
for sure. Yeah. So, thinking about this album, I think, just overarching comments, certainly the musicianship and the songwriting speaks for itself. I mean, it's fantastic. But I think most people agree, I think in the VC, and I think this is a general sentiment, is it's definitely not an audiophile record, especially the OG is not. I think the label was Ode Records. It was owned by A&M. And I think David, you were talking about, and we know A&M did some great work,
Yeah.
but not sure what happened on this particular album. I imagine if they could go back and
Well, Lou Adler, he's the same producer that did the Mamas and the Papas, and their stuff wasn't exactly the greatest recordings either. So
yeah,
I just don't think that's where he put his time and effort, to be honest.
yeah, and he actually owned Ode Records, so I'm not sure what the deal was there, but
Yeah, because
you
Herb
know,
Alpert and Jerry Moss wouldn't let him in on the A&M thing, so he had to start his own label.
yeah,
That's
yeah.
that's really the story. So maybe
Well,
they
and that
didn't want him to taint their recordings.
maybe not. Can't blame him. So and I think most people know. Yeah, yeah,
There you go.
definitely. Cobbett. There
Exactly
you
right,
go.
Cobb.
Muddy and the
Yep.
production's lousy.
Yeah,
I couldn't
Muddy.
agree
Yeah,
more.
and
And
that was complimentary. So
well, and from what I don't have an OG, but from what I understand, especially her vocals, they border on distortion at several points throughout the album, and that'll come up again actually when I talk about these different pressings.
yeah,
So I will say that there's other pressings out there. There is the OG, of course, that was alluded to just now. There's an org music that was put out a few years ago. It's a 2x45. I've heard pretty good things about that. I think it was Bernie Grunman
yeah,
mastered that.
yeah. I don't have
And
that
there's
one either.
also Classic Records did it back in the day. Yeah, I don't have that one. There's a 33 RPM of that, and there's I think they did their 45 RPM single sided thing that they did. It's like 4 records, in a box. And if anybody has those, I mean, would love to hear comments on those.
Sure.
I think that
Yeah.
would be interesting. But
Yeah, it would be.
neither David or I have a copy of those to
No.
compare, so
No, we don't.
those are out there. So it's in terms of methodology. So I know there are other reviews of Carole King Tapestry out there in the VC. I did not watch any of those before we did our review because I didn't want to be biased in any way, but I'll come back to that later. In terms of the shootout methodology, how we did it, I listened to the album all the way through and kind of selected some tracks that would be good to I felt like would be good to compare in terms of all of the things we're interested in, imaging, soundstage, detail, all of that. And what we selected was I Feel the Earth Move, It's Too Late, and You've Got a Friend. And I think what makes this interesting is this was a 3-person review. So it was myself, my wife, and my son. And my wife and my son were blinded to the identity of the album. So I obviously wasn't. I was changing the records, but they were blinded. They have no idea which one they were listening to. So I think that
Helps.
Really the goal is to eliminate bias there. I mean, we all come in with biases. You
Sure.
say, well, this one is better because it should be better. Right. So we played each track about a minute and a half roughly into it, basically further through the first verse and chorus. We also know that there's such a thing as recall bias, especially with hearing. So you want to make sure that, you make it fairly short and then make that transition as quickly as you possibly can. And we looked at, we had some kind of objective criteria, but also had the freedom to kind of comment and, say subjective comments as well. Just kind of adjectives to kind of, describe what we were hearing. Now, so the results. So the interesting thing is we all had the same results. We all agreed on across the board, which I think is interesting.
That's good.
And the bottom line is both of the MOFIs were definitely better than the CBS Master Series. And the MOFIs between the two of them were very close. We're not talking here, we're talking here. But all 3 of us agreed that the 33 RPM overall was better than the 45 one-step, which, I was definitely surprised at. I didn't expect that at all. But, into some specifics. So, talking first about the CBS Master Sound. So, this was half-speed mastered. It was pressed at Columbia pressing plant. This was the Terre Haute pressing. In terms of the surface noise, all of these were very, very quiet, mainly because David takes care of his records. So that's important. Um, and the interesting thing is, we all agreed the CBS Master Sound almost had kind of that Smiley EQ taste. It was, yeah, it was punchy because of that. You kind of get that boosted bass, but it was really too bright. And in fact, I alluded to the original, Carole King's vocals can almost distort at times. We all heard that on this as well. Just almost shrill at times. And I think you described it well, Dave, when you were talking about the Nightfly One-Step, is it gets fatiguing on your ears. It's just unpleasant after a while. And so, the sound stage, the imaging was pretty good on it, but we just couldn't get past that Smiley EQ. It was just too much on the bottom and the top end, just real shrill. So then between the 45 One-Step and the 33 MoFi, I think what's interesting is that I wrote down when I was listening to 33 easy on the ears. So didn't hear any, sort of shrill, no sibilance at all. Heard sibilance on the CVS half speed. And the detail was really great. There's a part on You've Got a Friend that James Taylor is playing a rhythm guitar along with the piano. And on the CBS, you couldn't hardly hear it at all. On the 33 and the 45, but we thought better on the 33, you could hear that acoustic. It's in the left channel. And if you're listening to that, listen for it. I think it's kind of buried in the mix. Again, this was not recorded well, but you can actually hear it especially on the 33. So I thought that was interesting. Overall, interestingly, the 45 One-Step had the best dynamics overall, but the sound stage and the imaging were actually a little bit better on the 33. Again, not night and day difference. They were very, very close. And really on You've Got a Friend, especially, we all thought the One-Step sounded better on that particular song, but not on It's Too Late or I Feel the Earth Move. So, it was a little bit of a mixed bag, but we just felt overall the 33 was the winner, the 33 MoFi between these three. So not what I expected, but
Yeah. So the three songs you sampled, one of them was a slower song, You've Got a Friend.
mhm.
The other two, I mean, It's Too Late is kind of in the middle. It's a little, but I feel the Earth Moves a little more rockin' kind of song.
Yep.
So, what would you say was the disadvantage the One-Step had on those? Because it won the You've Got a Friend, but what was it lacking, or what was it overdoing, or what was the on the One-Step compared to the other one from Mobile Fidelity?
Yeah, it's interesting because I was thinking about that as you were describing the Nightfly One-Step. And I think that's in some ways, it's an overarching theme maybe that in some cases there's a danger to doing One-Steps of bad recordings.
Yeah, it pushes things over an edge, so to
It,
speak.
maybe there's such a thing as too accurate,
Yeah, well, in the
where
Nightfly's case, it's a good recording. The issue is you got so much to work with. It doesn't take much for you to kind of push it. And in the case of Carole King, it may be a matter of trying to overcompensate for the lack of quality that's there.
Yeah, and I think that's really it. I mean, I think as you said, those two cuts are a little bit, kind of mid and, higher tempo, um, not as quiet,
Right.
right, as You've Got a Friend. And
Hmm.
that's when, there were times where there's a little bit of sibilance to her voice on the One-Step versus the 33. So
Hmm.
again, it's like we're saying, it's bringing out flaws in the original recording
Hmm.
almost because it's too accurate.
Yeah.
So, there's almost such a thing as being too true to the original. And you had described the one step as being of the Nightfly being fatiguing. Well, every time I hear that, I think digital
Sure,
because
sure.
that's what, a lot of
Yeah,
people are
right.
like digital is fatiguing.
Right.
And as you said, Nightfly was a digital recording to begin with. And then you put that on a one step that's so accurate. Is it bringing out that digital character in the recording too much?
Yeah, and maybe, and as this has gone on and we've talked about it more and more, my mind starts thinking about the fact that they canceled doing a Warren Zevon original release of his self-titled on One Step. And I know they said it had to do with the tapes, and probably did, but the question is, was the issue that they found that they were having to overcompensate to try to make it work, and just got to a point where it wasn't it would have been too overreaching to do that. I wonder, just because
Yeah.
and we're really getting, I mean, kind of getting in the weeds here, of course. So I mean, I don't think you go wrong with either of them. The Carole King, I see the 33 is going to be repressed. It says awaiting repress. So it looks like that one. And I think there's a lot of one steps of it still available out there
I
as
think
well.
so too. Yeah.
So I don't think it's a problem doing either of them. I have the OGs, and they're muddy and so I mean, that's not even that's like the CBS. It's not really worthy of comparing. But I will say that when I gave you these originally to do, I knew in my own mind, I thought that the original Mobile Fidelity beat the one step. That was why I wanted you to do it, frankly, because I
Yeah.
wondered if I was dreaming in that regard. Because I had two copies of it. I gave Brad mine, and it turned out I gave him my sealed one.
Yeah.
I thought I gave him my open one, which was fine. But so he got it straight from the factory on that one.
Yeah.
But
It was
yeah, but
clean. Yeah.
yeah, but anyway, so yeah, so it's interesting. I think both of us. I guess it's kind of like nothing is ever automatic. I mean, you can't just automatically say because it's a one step, therefore automatically X, Y, Z, whatever that might be. And so it's just it's why we do these, to try to get a perspective. And I guess the other thing is to know, can someone take a recording, even if it isn't the best recording, and do something really good with it, and
Yeah.
and here we have the Nightfly, which isn't a bad recording. Even the originals aren't that bad; they're pretty good. So it isn't that kind of thing. But it is kind of like the thing I just dropped the other day on the Jethro Tull's stand-up, where when you compare the OG compared to the Analog Productions release of that, it's night and day difference, and some effort there that Kevin Gray really was able to bring that out and make it shine and give it that airiness that he seems to have the capability to do.
Yeah.
And really just knock it out of the park in that regard. These are kind of nuances, and Brad keeps saying, "I think I saved you a bunch of money if you're not going to buy the one step." And he probably did. He probably did.
Well, that's a thing. If you're happy with the Chris Bellman or the
Yeah,
regular MoFi, I mean,
yeah.
you're done unless you want to, grab a one step just for,
Completist.
completeness sake,
Yeah, right.
which is
Yeah,
fine.
Yeah, yeah. No,
People
I
do
mean,
that. I do that myself.
if I found a good deal on one, I probably would buy one just for completist reason. But,
Yeah.
and I said the Chris Bellman was one that caught me off guard because I didn't even know I had it. So it's a learning for everybody to hear about that one, I guess, because it's a little bit of a sleeper.
So
As
funny.
a warning, audio limiting. Yeah. Yeah, I remember seeing that. And I've got 5.1s of the Nightfly that sound just, great in their own.
Yeah, a little different.
There's Caesar. How you doing?
Hey, Caesar. Hey, Jason.
So for anybody who's just joining, my conclusion on the Nightfly was the mobile Fidelity original was a little less fatiguing sound, a little smoother. But the $30, I don't know if it's 30 now, but back when I got it, the Chris Bellman 2012 press really is a great sounding record for the money and better than the OGs. So so there you have it on that. And then Brad's conclusion on the Tapestry is that basically the original Mobile Fidelity 33 RPM of that, or is it 2x45?
It's
The original
33.
33. I thought it was 33. Okay,
Hmm.
so the
Yep.
original 33 is often better. Now, like in You've Got a Friend, it's the one step's a little better. So on
Hmm.
the quieter tracks, maybe it's a little better on the one step, a little more precision. Maybe the actual precision of the one step is bringing out some of the distortion in
Hmm.
those other more active songs that are on there, and
Well,
that
and
definitely can happen.
it's good to hear the 33 is I didn't know that it's saying awaiting repress because
It
folks
does.
can get that now and you don't, I don't know if as you said, one step, Tapestry is still out there, I think, and they
Yep.
may be even below the 125
Probably.
now,
Yeah, they are.
but a 33 RPM is going to be what, $40 probably, you know. Um, and
Yeah,
at least to my ears and on my system, I like the 33 better, so you could get something,
yeah,
potentially better for less money.
yeah.
And I have to say the Nightfly, funny story about how I ended up getting that. I
Hmm.
think everybody remembers when the one step Abraxas came out, and it was $100, and I'll never forget it. I remember saying to myself, I can't believe anybody would spend $100 on a record.
You novice.
I know I was, and I was a novice at the time. I have to
Yeah, I guess
confess.
so.
So then I think the second one was Bill Evans' Sunday at the Village Vanguard, which at the time I was not a jazz fan, and but I quickly realized I'd missed the boat like a lot of people on Abraxas. So when the Nightfly came out, I wasn't even a huge fan of that, but I'm like, I'm gonna get it.
Yeah,
So that's how I ended up getting it.
yeah, yeah, exactly. So, does anybody in the group that's out there have any of those other pressings of Tapestry, the ORG or the classic recording that they have any input on? Kind of curious. They're kind of pretty rare, I guess, and narrow, in terms of availability, but I
Hmm.
imagine they're pretty good. Especially the one that Bernie was involved with, 45 RPM. But
Yeah,
I don't have that in my
I think he
toolbox.
did the 33 too.
Did he? Okay,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
I'll have to
So
ask
I
Chad if he has those.
Yeah, I mean, and while we're waiting for comments there, as I said earlier in my review, there are others in the VC that have done Tapestry, and they did it shortly after it came out. I don't know if folks follow Jim Carter on the True Audio Files. Great channel. He does a lot of shootouts. I
Hmm.
think he did. Let's see. I made a note here. Let's see what he did. Um, he did the one step versus the OG, and
Oh, that.
no surprise the one step slayed it. I mean, you know,
Yeah.
so that's not surprising. But if anybody watch, I don't know if you watch Scott at the Pressing Matters.
Oh, yeah, I do, and I think Scott was. Yeah, he may be on here actually. Yeah, I do.
Yeah, great channel. Shout out to him. I really love his channel a lot. I think he did the classic records 33 versus the one step 45 the one step when it came out, and like the one step better.
Did he? Okay.
Yeah, than the classic. And then Michael 45, I think everybody knows who he is. He did yeah, he is here. Hey Scott.
Yeah.
Um, I think he did the one step versus the 33 RPM MoFi and like the one step better. And all of these were pre,
DSD
DSD
gates.
gate,
Yeah.
which, I mean, everybody knows about that. And I don't know if that would have made any difference, but, just to point out.
Okay.
Nicholas, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, Nicholas, I hope you've cleaned those. I mean, that's one thing I always tell people, even with new records, clean them because there are matters of particles that get into records in the manufacturing process. So
Yeah.
So yeah, hey, quick spec, how you doing? So yeah, so Scott, yeah, that's again, you know, it's a matter of what you compare. I haven't heard the classic records, so I can't say. You know, it is it's something that I'm becoming a little more aware of with the digital step and with the fact that the one steps now you have a little more of a microscope on them. I think it's also potentially influencing opinions one way or the other sometimes and those kind of things. And I really, you know, try to be careful of that because I don't go in trying to pick a winner ahead of time.
Yeah.
I clearly would hope and expect that a record, you know, that costs $100 is better than a record that costs $40, but that isn't always going to be the case for a variety of reasons.
Yeah.
You know, it depends who masters it, depends on the tape they had at the time. You know, there's all sorts of variables involved.
Well, I think the interesting thing too about the Tapestry is it's the same the two MoFis. I mean, it's the same mastering engineer. It's Craig
Yeah,
Wunderlich.
it is.
It's off of the same, quarter inch 15 IPS to DSD
Yeah,
64.
yeah,
We know about that now. So the only difference is the speed and, super vinyl or not.
yeah,
And,
exactly.
and at least for us, with two listeners that were blinded to the identity of the
Yeah,
recording.
yours really had a lot of independence on that. You had people who weren't audiophiles as much and who just listened for listening's sake, and that's a hell of a substantiation right there. So, but I do want to
Yeah.
address what Scott said here on the pressing matters. Crosby, Stills, and Nash did not benefit from the one step, in my opinion. I think he meant, and I agree. I did a review of that, and I had probably more pushback on that review than any that I did. And it was probably the most detailed review I ever did by song because the variations were all over the map.
Hmm.
But at the end of the day, I mean, I stand by what I heard and and it is, you know, it is what it is, but it is one that I don't think benefited from the one step process at all. And as again, that's why I said, like the Warren Zevon thing, I start to think about are they starting to realize that there's boundaries and limitations and they don't want to, you don't want to brand your product as a negative in the sense that when you one step anything, you know, you're stepping on something else, you know, that's
Yeah.
really
Yeah.
what you don't want to do there. So yeah, I appreciate that. The flaws were magnified. The mastering moves to compensate produced a mix. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
I
Yep.
have to agree,
Yeah.
Scott. I agree with that too. I got the one step too. Talk
Talk
about
about
fatigue. Yeah.
fatigue.
I mean,
Yeah.
again, not a great recording. I mean, I think,
No, 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 no.
people
But
recognize that with the Couch album. It's not a great
yeah,
recording.
not a great recording. And even
You
the
know,
way the mics were placed, I mean, there's a lot of, it's just, I got, that was one that I ended up getting more into the weeds on than I really had planned to or thought about. But
hmm
I just kept trying to figure out why was this done this way? Why was they mic'd them all on one mic together and overloaded, and it just was a mess.
and that's the
Um,
thing is the one step. I think Scott pointed it
exacerbated.
out. It just brought
Just
all of it out.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah, the
exactly.
flaws and
Because I
the
really never ever had those thoughts when you know, and so you know, and their job is accuracy to the source. So I mean, it's kind of like, yeah, but when is it too much? You know, when
well,
is
it's
it too
garbage in,
much?
garbage out, right?
Yeah, maybe if they add some warmth to the recording, add some warmth to your wallet. But
Yeah,
no,
that
but
would
there's
be
another great
interesting.
example. Yeah, but there's another great example. ERC did the is it
The
the Beach
Doors.
Boys, the Doors, and man, Mike Esposito just hated it, and other people thought it was great. So I'm like, and Mike I know has listened to that a lot. I mean,
Yeah,
he's done a lot.
he's a
So I
big
mean,
fan. I think he says
so
that's his favorite
yeah,
band. So
but
yeah,
he's not a big ERC fan. So
right.
did he have a unconscious
Not just
bias? I
spice.
hate that term, but okay, there it is. Digital
Yeah,
delay with yeah, yeah. Well, that probably is what happened with the with the CBS
yeah,
thing. So
I think so.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's
Yeah,
yeah,
that'll do it.
Sean. I don't disagree with that. And in
Yeah.
fact, I mean, going back to the Couch album, I have a George Piros,
Mm.
I don't know if it was an OG, probably a repress at some point in the 70s. It sounds pretty good. And those can be had.
Yeah.
They're pretty easy to find. They're, not mega expensive. I think there's
No.
also a Chris Bellman cut of that's out.
Yes.
Do you have that one, or
No.
has anybody
I might. I
listened to
just gotta
that?
go.
It's sitting there.
It's
Oh,
sealed
yeah.
back there. I don't
You
know.
got a sealed copy there.
Yeah. But
That's when you
no,
know you're buying too many
yeah,
records,
right,
man.
exactly. Yeah, exactly. So I, and again, it's kind of like maybe it's best just to hear it the way the OG was. You know what I mean? It's just that way.
Yeah.
I don't. There's certain records I just don't have a lot of expectation for. It's like Robin Trower, Bridge of Sighs. I mean,
Mm.
that's kind of that lazy guitar kind of sound, and that's got a the recording isn't that dynamic. It's like what are you going to get out of that? I thought of him because he toured with Tull. I was seeing all the places he toured with Jethro Tull because they were on the same
Mm.
label,
Oh, okay.
So the
Yeah.
label was trying to cross promote him at the time. So there's
Yeah.
Melinda. Hi,
Oh,
Melinda. It's just okay.
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 Hey,
All right.
Melinda, I'm a big fan. I've
Yeah.
commented on your
Thanks for joining.
videos too,
Yeah.
so
Yeah. Really
glad you're
good
here.
stuff. Yeah. Thanks for coming on. Yeah. And giving us that because, yeah, we didn't know. But
Yeah, I've been thinking about picking that up, but yeah, appreciate that.
aha, you want to
Ah,
discuss Bridge of Sighs?
okay.
You want to come on here and discuss Bridge of Sighs? I can give you the link if you want to. Yeah.
Yeah, it'd be
Or you,
awesome to have Scott join. He's great.
let me put up the link and,
I have to confess, I don't know that album very well, so I may not
okay.
have much to say, but that's
That's
okay.
okay. I love it.
But I'll learn and maybe I'll pick it up. See, I'll
She
I'll
said,
learn what the
I don't
best
think
one
it's
to
a
get.
wonderful No, there isn't a wonderful version.
Yeah, no,
In
you're
the
right, Melinda.
studio is probably the only time. Yeah.
They
So,
definitely. I mean, think about the quality of the Couch album compared to Deja Vu
yeah.
in terms of recording. It's
Yeah.
they really elevated. Maybe that was Neil Young's influence.
Yeah.
I
He's
think
big
he's cared
into.
about sound since the very beginning, right? So
Okay. Yeah. He's going to join us. Good. Okay. Great. Yeah. Yeah. It's nice to have a few people in here.
cool.
So let's see what Kabatune's saying.
Oh,
Yeah. I don't know. They did Full Moon Fever. That was their first CD that used DSD.
hmm
Before Music Direct bought them in 99 or 98. So they've had some rights there before. REM, I'm not sure where they might stand with that. But since
what?
Tom Petty's died, who knows, how that goes to States and all that stuff.
Yeah, I agree, Sean. The REMOGs are very, very good, and MoFi did do several of their titles. It was the pre Warner Brothers days, so they went with Warner Brother, basically starting with Green, I think, and so they did Document, maybe Murmur, Reckoning. There's Dead Letter Office. I can't remember. There's 2, 3, 4 REM records that MoFi did do back in the day. I think probably that was still the Stan Ricker days. I don't have any of those. As Sean said, I have OGs and they're really, really good.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know what Scott posted. I hadn't seen
Yeah,
what Scott posted.
I saw something. I saw he posted. I didn't have time to watch it yet, but I will.
Yeah, well, you know how it is. You only so many hours in a day, right?
Yeah, yeah,
That's the way that truck goes. We'll wait for him to join here.
yeah.
Oh, yeah, the REMs.
The originals, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think they started recording digitally till at least after Automatic for the People. Maybe Monster was digital. I don't know, but it's weird. I always liked the spars codes on the CDs. They were they're fairly common in the 80s. And then once it got into the 90s, it's like, they just kind of abandoned it, I guess, because pretty much everything was on CD. Vinyl was going away at that time anyway.
Hey, Scott.
There he is. Hey,
How you
Scott.
doing,
Hey,
buddy?
hi.
How are you?
Hear me
Thanks for
okay?
joining. Yeah.
Yeah.
Great.
Nice to have you. So
That
You're
was
welcome.
a very interesting
let's get on the bridge
discussion.
and do some size.
There it
you
is.
go.
Yeah, I've actually been working on a review.
Cool.
Every time I get the chance on my channel, I ask for a premium pressing of this album. And the more I listen to it over the last few days, just picked this up like a couple of days ago. It was 2014.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, it's one of those records that has limitations.
Yeah.
I love it, but it's got limitations, and I don't know if it needs a remix or what, but I have a Friday Music and I have this one. Friday Music, I'm not that big a fan of, but it's okay. Kevin Gray wasn't involved with that
So it
particular
was
one.
Joe Regasaro or whatever you guys.
Regoso,
Yeah, impeccably.
Anything he does to me is like toilet time.
Yeah, I know.
Anything he does alone.
Yeah.
Yeah. I know. I've been disappointed many times, but he did release a few Trower records, so I picked them up.
Okay.
I love this one and Forth Below as well.
I do too. The orange one, yeah.
Yeah.
Those
That's
are
great. And
do you have
really
OGs of those? Do you have OGs of those?
No.
I do. I can send you mine if you want for comparison.
Yeah. Okay.
No,
That's
I
what
can't.
we're doing here.
No, I can.
All right, we can talk about that because I'm wondering. A couple of readers had told me, commenters had told me that the UK is the one to have for these. So
Probably, ideally, I guess that's probably true.
yeah, I don't know the whole story, but I love Robin Trower's guitar. But what I really love about these albums is James Dewar's voice.
Yeah.
Yeah, unreal, just so soulful and beautiful. Yeah.
Yeah. What they got a song on there about Eagle? I'm just
Day of the Eagle.
Day of the Eagle. That's a great tune. Yeah.
Yeah.
Living in the Day of the Eagle. Yeah.
Bridge of
I'm gonna have to
Sighs.
listen to
I
that.
mean,
Besides,
Bridge of-
that's
that could sound beautiful on a UHQR or something like that with all those
man.
bells
Oh
and
yeah.
the wind blowing and stuff. Yeah.
Oh yeah. It's
Yeah,
I'll
I
talk
think
to
it's-
Chad about that.
I always make a point to drop that into my videos. If Chad's listening, I don't think he is, but
You never know.
you never know.
You never know.
No.
I just
So
talked to
who
him a few
mastered that?
I just talked to him a few hours ago, actually. So,
Oh yeah.
There you go.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
not in touch with those guys, but I am in touch with Concert Buddy. We had a nice little interview today.
good.
Yeah,
Yeah. Chances
probably
good.
come out next week.
Great.
Yeah, I hope I can mention that. But
No. Yeah. I'm sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's cool.
yeah,
Yeah.
but this whole discussion about the One-Steps and Nightfly and Tapestry, you like you said, you saw my Tapestry review.
Yep.
At the time, yeah, that was before the scandal, and really the scandal did not affect me. That I wasn't devastated like most people, I think, but and I have a lot of money in the things, but it's not about the money for me. It's just about how do they sound, and
Right.
I've been somewhat, looking at these lately on my shelf, and I'm not pulling them out very much, honestly. And it's not because they're digital or anything like that, but it's that extra push in the high end that really is fatiguing. And if it's a bad recording like CSN or a mediocre recording like CSN or Tapestry,
Mhm.
it's even worse,
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
Yeah, I think there's a point at which that accuracy that it evokes actually brings out the worst in a recording.
Yeah.
And it, it just, an audiophile record should be for an audiophile recording. I think that's.
I think
really,
you're right.
At the end of the day, we're, but they're going after licensing rights, and they're going. I don't know to what degree that element is the driving force. Some of the driving forces are catalog. I want the Eagles catalog. I want the Van Halen catalog. And of course, Chad said I want the Steely Dan catalog, but we know the reputation the Steely Dan catalog has vis-a-vis audiophile, and that's the reason it's never come out. Is because they wouldn't let it just come out. They wouldn't let that happen. And so, I just got a notice last week that Universal's finally coming out with Countdown to Ecstasy. I mean, that took them 6-8 months to release for some reason.
Yeah. I wonder why.
For their 33 version?
Yeah, for their 33 version,
The digital.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know. I really struggled with the digital version of Can't Buy a Thrill. And a lot of people said they liked it. Huh?
Really? Yeah.
Yeah. Did you get that?
No, I have the Speaker's Corner. I'm not that big a fan of that album in particular.
Okay.
I'm more into the glossy later ones like Asia and Gaucho.
Yeah.
So I'm on board for those as a UHQR. I have those on pre-order. But
yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I think those will be
so
spectacular.
What about Yes Fragile?
Well,
One-Step.
I didn't have a lot of point of reference. I had been searching for a decent copy for a while, and I didn't have any luck finding a really good clean original. And I know that there was some other pressings out there, but at the time Fragile came out in the One-Step, I was like you said, kind of like getting on the bandwagon. And
I've got a UK OG of Fragile.
Yeah.
Plum?
Huh?
Plum?
I think it's a Plum, yeah.
Yeah, UK
Yeah.
Plum. See, that I would like to see. The UK Plum versus the One-Step versus the Kevin Gray that's out. Like you could get
I've got
clear
that
burn.
one. I got a clear and a black. I've got a clear and a black.
Oh, really?
Why are you trying to give away what I'm doing next? Why? What are you doing, Brad?
I know nothing.
Yeah, you're right. You know nothing. No, he doesn't. He didn't. I never said that. But
you never said a word.
I never said a word. But of course, I'm the one that opened my mouth and said I got the OG from UK.
Well, this is good because we can help each other with these shootouts with pressings that we don't have.
Sure. No, exactly.
That's what I mentioned in the comments. That's going to happen with this Elvis one. I bought this Elvis One-Step. I hadn't planned on getting it. I mean, I planned on getting it 3 years ago when I put the pre-order in, and I kind of forgot to cancel it. And it showed up, and I opened it up. And I'm not that familiar with the record. I listened to it. It sounds good, I think. But I was talking to my audio dealer. We're going to do a little shootout on his system because he has the original Mobile Fidelity. So the 33 from way back. So that's all analog, supposedly. Yeah. And so that'll be kind of interesting.
That'd be cool.
It is.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is. Thanks for joining, everybody. Just wanted to
thank you
appreciate you guys being here, and you too, Scott. And
thank you for having me.
But yeah, I just thought maybe we do something different, do results of a shootout, together, and just kind of do this a little, because it was kind of an active collaboration to do it in the first place. So it's only natural to do this.
Yeah, I enjoyed it. I really enjoyed it. It's great.
Good.
Great, thanks. Appreciate that. Brad has really been most kind, with sharing, what he has and trusting me with that. I appreciate that very much. It's something, in the vinyl community, when you can build that trust between people, that, is special. And I think that's what makes the difference. Speaking of concert, buddy.
Ah, there he is.
We are talking about
course.
MOFI. Is it?
Well,
I'm going to
can't throw the baby out with the bathwater. Some of them are quite good, right?
Yeah, right. Exactly.
They sounded good before, and they sound good after.
I'll say MoFu.
Do you guys have a favorite of your One-Steps?
Man, I gotta say Eagles first.
Yeah,
that's fantastic.
A lot of people really love that one. Yeah,
and I have an OG and I have a radio station OG copy. And they sound. I always thought, it's kind of like they really sounded hot right out of the box. Just boom, that strum right at the. And I'm like, oh, nothing's gonna beat that. And man, when this thing came out, I about fell on the floor.
Yeah,
I'll tell you, I'll never forget playing it the first time. My wife and I were sitting in there listening to it. put it on, and then both of us just looked at each other and went, "Holy crap! I'm hearing stuff I've never heard before."
Yeah.
But see,
It's
that's what
so
happens
good.
when a one-step process gets hold of a good recording.
Right.
See,
Right.
There you go.
that is, to me, it's like Fragile. That is the tail of the tape. And every time you get a deviation from that, there often in my mind is, okay, what's going on with the source?
Right.
And that's why I still, the back of my mind still says this War on Zeman thing. It was a big deal for them to back out of that, and they were very quiet about it. To say we're not going to do this. But I give them a lot of credit for doing it, for backing out and saying, hey, it's just not up to. I really do.
Well, maybe they learned their lesson. I
Yeah.
mean, that's they have had missteps. I mean, that's kind of what we're saying.
Well, think about it. If I worked there and I ran things, I'd say, the first thing they're going to do is blame this on DSD. So I don't, I don't want the whole thing get sullied because of that,
Well, it's like you can't have it both ways.
Exactly.
DSD can't be your savior and
your devil. Yeah, no,
Yeah.
that's true.
Sorry, I just trying to get my power to my phone.
Oh, quick spec.
Quick spec.
The Monk's Dream and the Mingus are very, very good.
I agree. I think those are the best.
Yeah, and I don't have any jazz ones, so I confess I can't say.
I didn't get the Bill Evans because I said earlier I wasn't really into jazz at the time those two came out, and I ended up getting the AP box, and it's phenomenal. I can't imagine they'll get better than that. I know OGC's doing them, but I can't. I don't know. I just don't see those being better than the AP 45s, but you never know.
You never know. I'm very excited about that series.
Yeah.
I actually have the one-step, and it's the only one I have sealed because I got I didn't get a Braxis. The situation you described, I remember looking at it in the music directs, and I'm like, who the hell's going to pay $100? It's a good recording and everything, but nah, I'm going to pass on this. And then
it's like there you go.
That Tesla's not going to do anything. What are we talking about?
That's why Chad says buy now, cry later.
Right?
Yeah,
that's a good example.
So I did buy it. I bought the Sunday at the Village Vanguard. I wanted it anyway, but and I saw the price like going up for Abraxas, and I said maybe I better not open this. I have my original AP. And now we'll have another one in the OJC series. So I don't know maybe I'll do a shootout. I'll open it for a shootout.
Yeah, that would be a good one.
Yeah, might as well.
So we have two Dylan comments. One is that the Blood on the Tracks one-step's really good. I've heard that a lot.
Yeah.
I almost pulled the trigger on buying a used one I had. And then Melinda says that MOFI of Dylan's Desire, which isn't a one-step, I know, but it's and I like Desire. I think I told you that, Brad. I like Desire and Blood on the Tracks, and but I've got them in quad, so I usually play them in quad.
Well, a lot of people say that the MOFI Dylans are about as good as you can get. I mean, I'm not a Dylan fan, but that's what I hear.
I can't believe you don't like the way I sing. What do you mean?
and the Miles Davis, of course. I mean, Miles Davis are killer. They're so good. Yeah.
This one I just got recently. It's pretty killer too.
I've heard that. That's a mono, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. They did a great job on it.
Yeah, I think Mazzy was a big fan of that.
Yeah, he kind of pushed me to the edge to get it.
Gave you FOMO, huh?
Well, I was like, I went to the website and I'm checking, and someone was I think it was on the Hoffman forum. They were like, there's only 39 left. I just put them all in my cart to see how many were there. And then it was like 25. And I said, oh, I better get it now. So yeah, it was a little FOMO.
Well, good. Glad you got one. That's cool.
Yeah, I'm glad I got it too.
Yeah.
Every once in a while, MOFI will come out with something that'll restore my faith in them, and it's like anything. Chad usually hits it out of the park. Most of everything he touches is great, but in general, what I was going to say, like, I lost my train of thought. So,
I wonder what that noise was.
yeah, yeah,
Train
sorry.
got off the tracks.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but
But think about this. You know, we're talking about MoFi missteps.
right.
Can I think of a Analog Productions misstep? I don't know that I can.
Not too many. I can't think of any, really.
If I'm being honest, I can't think of one. I mean, not that I have all of them, but
Yeah,
all the
I
ones
mean,
I have are awesome.
other than, you know, here and there, there's a quality with the record, or you know what I mean. But as far as the mastering and the production of the record, yeah, I think, you know, I will say this very straight, but understand it. What Chad is a very tight harness on this, on his ecosystem, and
Yeah.
rightfully so. He does it both on the input side of what's decided to be done. He does it with the artists and the labels, and I mean, he's in the middle of everything, and nothing's going to go until he says it's time to go. You know, took seven cuts on one of the sides of Can't Buy a Thrill for him to approve what Bernie had done. So
Right.
you know, it's not it's yeoman's work, and I don't want to say in any way that there aren't any other people in the industry. I know there are, I'm sure, who are less maybe visible that are that passionate. But you know, I mean, it is a very high confidence level to come out with that. You know, and I think I hope to do a video eventually. I think she's answering the question, and I will be honest. I've had this question myself on when you were going to do a video on the visit to MoFi. I think a lot of us have had that question.
Yes.
Yeah,
'Cause
looking
it's
forward to
been a
that.
while, and yeah,
Looking forward to that.
we're looking forward to it. I mean, I'm sure it's a little more involved than some of us might want to understand. But having been involved with interviewing people and doing things, I understand some of the mechanisms that are in place and release schedules and all sorts of things. So, but I'm glad you got to do it. I'm glad that you represented the vinyl community and that they recognized that they needed, you know, to start doing something. I think, you know, to be honest, it's kind of like, okay, but what's the bigger plan? But they're in these litigations right now, and so they're kind of caught in a way too. They've got to kind of be careful what they do, what they say, how they say it, as well. And right now it's a feeding fest for the lawyers right now, trying to one up each other to get the best deal. So, you know, Mazzy asked about it this morning at the end of Rachel's show about there being a billboard thing about a $25 million settlement. And I did my checking immediately, and I said that really was a link to an old story that I think they just pre-promoted again, because there is no new info on it whatsoever. And so, yeah, Melinda, I respect it totally. I get it.
Yeah.
I get it. It's, and you don't sometimes know it until you get in the middle of it, you know, exactly. And
for the record, Melinda, you're not the only one that's looking forward to the Van Halen One-Steps. I'm a huge Van Halen fan. I have been since the first record came out, and I'm very curious about them. So we'll see.
Yeah, I have it on order.
well, I had it on
the first one.
First one? Okay.
Yeah.
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 I kept all six, you know, because I figure, you know, I'm sure the first one would be the first one to come out, and I can kind of take it from there. If it's killer, I'll probably get the rest of them. But, you know.
Yeah, well, the first settlement that came out in response to this was basically that if you had a one-step and you bought it from MoFi or music director and authorized dealer, you could turn it back in and get your money back plus tax plus shipping.
Yeah.
Even if it was open.
Yeah.
Okay. So
Full price, right?
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
So if you're, you know, and that was the opening offer. So
right.
It's
but not many people were doing it because the secondary price was still a little higher than you could get from MoFi.
Yeah, it was, but then, you know, it took a dip, and then now it's starting to come up again a little bit. I don't, you know, there are certain titles though you can get for $80 that are one-steps.
Yeah.
Paul Simon,
bad
for
ones.
example. Pardon?
The bad ones.
The
The bad ones. Or,
Yeah.
yeah, or the ones that didn't sell out, of course,
Yeah.
Right.
which are getting to be more and more of them. Okay, so
Self-titled
they've
in
got-
1984. Okay.
You haven't heard the finished product, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I'm sure you probably caught him early in the process on that. And it's kind of like it's really, you think about what we talked about today, and so you think about this and think, okay, so they commit to the catalog, and then they start to work on mastering these as they get them. And then what if they hit one that is really problematic?
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, this is for whatever reason. I mean, could be dropouts, could be God knows what, I don't know. But what are there any parachutes that they can use to get out from under anything when it gets like that, like they did with the Warren Zevon? I don't know, but that's the thing. The irony of it is, again, I go back to this. The irony of it is, I think what they were trying to do with DSD was to salvage and archive things while they had, decent copies of the tape. And I think that makes a lot of sense because you don't know what's going to happen, whether it's a fire or whether it's, oxide breaking down or whatever it is. So I think they really missed an opportunity to say, hey, we're doing this kind of for the preservation of the integrity of having this. If the tapes are good enough and we can use them, we would use them. But if they are broken down, we're going to go to the one that we archived as the best known piece at that point in time. So I think they could have evolved the whole discussion and educated people in the meantime, and they lost that opportunity because now you're talking about is the fact they didn't tell you the truth,
Right.
Yeah.
Well, unfortunately, that was a kind of a lost opportunity, I think.
Well, I forget who it was. So I think there's actually been several that have said this, and I actually agree with them that, I think this will be like business schools will teach this, or marketing schools will teach this as an example of what not to do.
Yeah, it will be. Yeah, it will
Right?
be a case study. There's no doubt.
Yeah, like
I've heard that Hotel California is June, and not Logan Run, probably the Long Run. Is probably what you
long run.
Logan's Run. Spell check. I think I heard October for that one, but I think Hotel California is going to be June.
That's one I'm excited about.
Yeah, me too.
It's obviously an iconic album. It's fantastic.
Has anybody heard a really great recording of it? Boy, that went silent fast.
Well, I have a DVD audio of it.
That's different. Okay,
that's
yeah,
really
that
good.
sounds pretty good.
That's something else. But
yeah, a good.
Does anybody have the original MOFI of Hotel California?
No.
Yeah, no, I don't.
Yeah,
that's a good question. I don't have that, but I honestly haven't really heard a good vinyl version of that, to be honest with you. And the only thing the DVD audio tells me is that the master tapes have more on them than we ever have heard. I think.
Yeah, which could
good.
go either way.
It could.
Hopefully it's good.
Good.
Yeah.
Did their recording quality continue to improve up until Hotel California?
Say that again, Scott? I was reading that. I'm sorry.
I'm not that big into Eagles, so I don't know some of the middle albums, but did their recording quality continually improve up until naturally, like Hotel California and beyond?
I wouldn't say that.
No?
No, I wouldn't say that.
Right.
I actually think their best recorded album was their first album.
Yeah. Okay.
To be honest with you.
That's Glenn Johns, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The long run is pretty good. I think Ted Jensen maybe mastered the OG, and it's pretty good. That'll be a tough one to beat, I think. I have it. It's pretty good.
I have a feeling they're going to knock those two out of the park. I really do.
I kind of think so too. I hope so.
VH1 and Hotel California, I meant. Yeah. There's too much riding on to not.
Yeah.
get
Anthony's
that
saying
VH1,
that
right.
What's Going On is an amazing one-step.
Oh,
Yeah, yeah.
I don't know.
I honestly
don't have
agree with
those.
your review, Scott. I remember yours, I think the Kevin Gray beats it to me.
yeah,
I agreed with you. Yeah.
yeah. Oh, there's something weird about that one in the one-step.
Yeah.
So
Just
Melinda says, I assume she has the MOFI Hotel California. She said it's pretty good, but there is room for improvement. Okay.
Hopefully they'll do just that.
Yeah. There's a lot riding on that one being right.
Yeah.
That's a big title.
That's going to be like a microscope Chad's going to have for Asia.
For sure. Yeah.
You know, I think that one's definitely going to have a microscope.
That's a marquee title.
But the good news is we're going to get it sooner than we thought.
Looking forward to it
this year. So, yeah, I'm really glad for that because those last two albums are the ones I really wanted to hear the most. Most CDs of Hotel, what happened here? Are missing the high end. Yeah.
I don't think I have a CD of that. I've never listened to it.
Most everything but the DVD the 5.1 is missing the high end to me. I mean, that's the only one I've really heard it on very well. First time I played First time you played, you said mine. I'm sorry, I want to make sure I know which mine you're talking about here, Concert Buddy. We've talked about a couple albums, so I just want to make sure.
Just a few.
Yeah, just a few. When you played your what? No sex. Okay, so we're not going to talk about Jethro Tull. No Ian Andersons and flutes. None of that nonsense. Hotel California.
Oh,
so
okay.
is it just an OG chance? Your Hotel California, or did you mean a CD or the LP or? Put your response below in the comments. Anyway. Hey, Scott, what part of the world are you in?
I'm in Miami.
Miami. Oh, wow, man.
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
Beautiful.
Beautiful. Yeah. It can be beautiful except during hurricane season. Right?
Yeah, then it's a little scary.
Yeah.
True.
And it gets very hot.
Yeah.
Yeah, you have to keep your LPs under
in answer to this question, there could be some interesting things coming up in the near future, not even related to titles in the near future. So
2 weeks.
Intriguing.
No, not even. Yeah, not related to titles, but
2 more weeks.
He said that he did mention the Prestiges. They are just having trouble keeping up with. They said the Prestiges are really being well received, which is
they're phenomenal.
Yeah,
they are.
They're so good. Yeah,
amazing.
Great, good waxed impression. Now look here, Sean Howard.
Do you think the contemporaries are up to the same level as the Prestige? The contemporary ones that are on the mass, that are the acoustic sound series that are more widely distributed.
Yeah, I didn't get all of those. I got the
Meets the Rhythm section.
Yes, the Art Peppers. Yeah, those fantastic.
Yeah, that was awesome.
And I got one recently. Blanking on it. Can't remember. I listened to it.
There was Jazz Giant, the Barney Kessel.
That's it.
The poll winners.
The Barney, the Jazz Giant, Giant.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
Yeah,
I
fantastic.
didn't get that one yet.
Yeah.
You'll
like it.
Very impressed.
Yeah. I honestly, Scott, you and I have the same jazz journey, I think, because our tastes are very similar. I'm not big into the avant-garde kind of crazy type stuff.
Right.
All of the ones that you've liked are pretty much my speed. So
Yeah.
you like the Jazz Giant one.
Oh, yeah, that's on my buy list for sure. This morning I did a Sunday morning jazz listen. I don't know if you saw it, but
Not yet.
it was for the Barney Kessel, Ray Brown, and Shelly Mann one. What's it called? Not for the poll winners.
Poll winners, yeah.
Wow, it's beautiful, beautiful.
Those are really good. I mean,
Quick Spec can answer your question. He does now have a third shift going for QRP. So the production is increased in terms of throughput. So that's good. He's continuing to try to grow his off shifts, but he did get a third shift going, which was kind of the speed bump that he was having back when I met with him last August. So he has increased his capacity. But of course, demand isn't backing up at all. That's of course, So we got guys here in Florida talking across each other. John's in Clearwater saying hello to you, Scott. And
cool.
I guess Concert Buddy's trying to get
John.
directions. There's this little thing called Google Maps. Anyway, glad we could facilitate people connecting. That's what this is all about. So
Yeah.
that's cool. That's always
fun.
a good thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know if you saw, Scott, my email address earlier. If you want to email me your address, I can send you those trowers I have.
Oh, okay, yeah. I'll take a look for it. Sure.
Yeah, there it is.
Yeah.
It's easy. David at sabletowntexas.com.
They'll be safe with me.
And sound.
There you go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Yeah.
that's great. So anybody who joined from the beginning, I just want since the beginning, I guess, just basically I did a shootout on the Nightfly, and Brad did one on Tapestry, and the long and the short of it is, I like the original MOFI Nightfly better than the One-Step, and I also really like the Chris Bellman 2012 release for, $30 or for whatever it is, if you can find one. That one is really the MoFi's big advantage, of course, is quieter vinyl. And Brad's finding was, in a nutshell,
Yeah, the MoFi 33 over the One-Step.
unless you really love You've Got a Friend.
Yeah.
And then, the One-Step sound a little better.
Yeah.
But so it seems like on these songs where, there's more punch, more access, more stuff going on, that's where maybe the One-Step start to maybe push it a bit, and as that's what we're starting to kind of see a little bit as a pattern.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was thinking of that when you were talking about that. I was thinking of CSN again, to go back to that.
Yeah.
Like Guinevere sounded gorgeous.
Oh, it's fantastic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But, like Wooden Ships sound like, I don't know, like
It didn't sound like ships.
tape overload, and I don't know. I read stories about how they recorded that, and they're all singing into one mic, so the mic must have been like
I know.
Overload.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and like I said, I ended up doing a lot of research on that I didn't plan to, but after listening to it, I'm like, what the hell happened? How did it get this way?
Right.
Because it never entered my mind listening to the original. You know what I mean? But this was like, so, because I'm thinking, well, MoFi didn't re-record it. They didn't remix it. They didn't, it's all the way it was done, and then then there were some where they were separated, and then that seemed to work better,
Right.
So it just, but a lot of, I sensed that honestly, some people were like, kind of endeared to the album, I guess. And if you made a bad comment about something, it was, kind of like,
Oh, yeah.
But that was, I think that's maybe one of the few that I really song by song went by and put a chart at the end, because it was just so all over, the place.
Yeah. Yeah. I got a little flack for that too.
Did you? Okay. Well,
Yeah. Sometimes, yeah. I don't, normally I like to review records I like, but sometimes it's, with one of these big releases, you you review it, and I just tell it like it is. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm not beholden to anybody. I don't want to hurt anyone's feelings, but I try to be fair.
Hey, Brad, do you have an answer to this?
I do. I got Exodus thanks to David, actually, who got an extra and sold his to me. So thank you, David. I appreciate that. Yeah.
You're welcome.
I have them both.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
I'm glad
I didn't get Restaman Vibration, but I like it as well. But yeah, I had to get Exodus, and it's fantastic.
Yeah, well, that's, you talk about, I say, kind of like fate. It's kind of like I happened to get two of them, and Brad and I happened to, get connected through this other thing with Fleetwood Mac, and then meeting here, and then, when he came and he hadn't got one, and so I brought it with me, and
It's like, you want to buy this? I'm like, yeah. I missed it.
and I didn't gouge you at all.
No, you didn't. No,
No.
you didn't. Very fair man.
That's the
So,
spirit.
Yeah, no.
No,
I
it's
told
like,
him, I said I wanted to buy it. My intent was to buy it for someone who missed out and really would love it and enjoy it. That Not a flipper,
Yeah.
not, but someone who
Yeah.
that was my reason for doing it, and that's
Mhm.
it. That was kind of the old pay it forward kind of thing, right?
Right.
That kind of thing.
it's like you said earlier, David. I mean, that's what's cool about the VC. I mean, it's people that share a genuine passion for music and audiophile pressings, et cetera, and are willing to share, and do one another a solid, when you have the opportunity.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I couldn't get out on a record store day this past few weeks ago, and so Brad got one for me, and Concert Buddy got a few for me. So
That's great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So and I'm sure. And no, I haven't gone back to Josie to. There's a Chet there, and I should have just bought it the day I saw it Friday.
Yep.
I think it was. I should have just bought it Thursday.
Right, Scott? He needs the Chet Baker Chet mono. It's killer.
On
It
crap.
So
is
good.
killer. It is killer.
Yeah.
I'm glad I got mine at list the day after.
Yeah.
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 Well, it's there at list, but I just
Oh, okay.
yeah.
Yeah.
Just sitting there.
Get it. You won't be sorry. I mean, even if you're not a jazz person,
And
Oh,
it's easy list. It's very, very good.
Yeah.
very accessible is what you said. I think.
Accessible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Guys, I got to
Okay.
sign off. I've got to go to work tomorrow. So
No problem. Thanks for your time. I really appreciate you joining. Yeah,
I
send me an
really
email and we'll hook
appreciate
up
it.
on that Robin Trower.
okay. All right. Thank you
Okay.
so much.
Great meeting you.
Good to
Thanks.
talk with you both.
Yeah, take care.
Yeah.
Have
Nice
a
to
good
meet
evening.
you, Scott. I've messaged you on your videos here and there, and
Yeah.
really
I
enjoy
answer,
it.
right?
You did. You did.
Okay. I
That's-
try to answer everything.
I do too.
You did.
All right,
I
man. Have a
appreciate
good
that.
one. Take
But
care.
great to
Okay.
meet you.
Take
See ya.
care.
Yeah, bye-bye.
Take care, man.
Yeah, that was nice having him come on. That was great.
He's great.
Yeah. So Marius Stick said that Rastaman might just edge Exodus by a hair.
Yeah.
Okay, well, that's fine. That's
Yeah,
but they're both great. I guess that's the
Yeah.
bottom line. They're both
I think
great.
that's it. Yeah, they are both great.
I'm not helping your wallet. Sorry, we know the feeling.
Shoot out 45 RPM.
Ooh.
Self-titled. Is there
Of
a
course.
45?
Yes,
The rumors, I know.
yes, there is.
Okay.
Yes,
I haven't
there
seen
is.
that. That would be interesting.
Yeah, I would. I'll have to. You saw my email address, quick spec. Just toss me an email and we'll connect. David at safeandsoundtexas.com. Yeah, that's.
So quick spec, is that Kevin Gray, Steve Hoffman like the rumors, or what is that? I haven't heard that they did a 45 of the.
Yeah, I've heard that, and I think I looked it up at one time, but I can't remember what it was. So I don't want to guess who it was.
Okay.
But
See,
I mean,
now
rumors.
now I'm
got-
getting FOMO. 'Cause I may want one of those because
Yeah.
I love the self-title as much as rumors, if not more.
Yeah, well, rumors just got overplayed. I mean, obviously, and then a certain presidential candidate used the shit out of it in '96.
True.
And it was, so I
There was
really
that.
got sick of it.
too. The Rumors.
Yeah, I've
45
got
cents.
that.
Yeah,
I've got the Rumors is unbelievable.
yeah.
That was
That's
like a
it.
new that was like a new experience of the album too,
Oh
to
yeah,
me.
that's a demo disc
Yeah.
to me. That's fantastic.
Yeah, but to hear Rhiannon, let's say, with that kind of a sound would just delight me.
Yeah, and
So,
Songbird. I
yeah,
love Songbird. I would love to hear that elevated.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, that first album was. It seemed like I really got as I got to appreciate it more and more. Rumors came out and just stepped all over it. It's
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
um,
How about the Buckingham Nicks?
yeah, I've got that. Yeah, that's
That's
really a good
that's a
one.
great album. Apparently, those two hate it. So, like, I don't know that there will be a. Um,
What's that? Pogo.
Pogo. I don't know. Not sure what that is.
Not sure,
Nicholas.
Nick. If you could clarify what you mean by that, I'd appreciate it. There he goes. Okay, so
Oh,
that's the yeah,
really? For
yeah.
the
So
45, I
that's
guess
what he
that's for the
said.
45 RPM
Yeah.
self-title. Okay.
Yeah, we'll be getting on the Discogs right after this
Yeah,
stream.
yeah. I'm gonna seek that out.
There
Spending
you
money.
go.
Help me
Yeah,
spend money like I need
yeah,
help.
yeah. See, so we're not the only ones, right?
No, no.
In the Dead Wax.
In
Okay,
the
there
dead
it is.
wax. There you go.
Okay, all right.
Can't done yet.
Yeah,
Oh,
Fleetwood
Fleetwood
Mac, and
self-titled. Yeah,
yes,
okay, got
and
it. Yeah,
that
that's the
is the
one I
first
said.
one that he loaned that to me because I did a shootout with an OG, but it wasn't a Ken done. And then once I got that from him, I said, yeah, that OG is better. Now I still think the MOFI of it beats it in terms of sound, overall sound quality, and definitely quiet. I mean, it's dead ass quiet.
Mm.
Because it was like number 5 of the MOFI. No, 12. It was number 12 of the MOFI releases.
Oh, that was an early one.
Yeah, it was
Yeah.
very early, very early.
And that has the distinction of having the original master recording on the bottom instead of the top, right? I think
Yeah, and
is
it's
that
got
the
like
only
a
one?
nah, it's got like a sky background on the label too.
Interesting.
Stevens.
Oh, he's looking for your email.
Yeah, I just
Yeah.
want to put it in there for him.
It may very well be the longest email address ever.
Oh, give me.
But
I'm gonna rename my email channel. No. Well,
I
what's
can't help it.
yeah, I know. Everybody and their dog is after that.
Yeah.
You know what's funny? I came up with that name and the company name because I had to add Texas for it to be unique because Safe and Sound is used, by a lot of the. So I added that to make it unique. And I'll be darned, in the next 4 months or so, OSHA, the Occupational Safety and Health Organization of the U.S., came out. Their monthly newsletter is called Safe and Sound.
Oh, see, it's a good thing you got the Texas on there. See?
Yeah. So I'm like,
Yeah.
wow. Then I started thinking, well, are they bugging my phone? Do they? No, they're listening to everything. We know that, right? So,
Yeah.
so anyway, so this was, this was a lot of fun and an interesting way to do this, and I it didn't really seem like anybody was totally, I'll say, argumentative in the sense of saying, you got to be kidding. The One-Steps have got to blow everything away. Well,
Yeah, you gotta let your ears be the guide, right?
yeah,
At the
and
end of the day.
unfortunately, you don't know generally unless you pay for it or you borrow one or whatever. But you don't know what you don't know, and one thing I've started to look at when I'm researching are reviews in Discogs against certain pressings.
Mm-hmm.
Like when you have an actual pressing up going down and looking what people have said, because people will generally say, this really was disappointing, or this is really much better than I thought it was,
And
or
usually
whatever.
it's both ends of the spectrum. People only review things if they're really good or really bad, right?
Yeah. Yeah, Marius, I'd like to hear what you think of those ones that were pressed in Jamaica. I've heard that, I guess the people that bought them basically after they listened to them, they kind of said, well, what do you expect? So I guess, like, okay, that's, okay, that's fair enough. It's, I wouldn't have really high expectations. I mean, come on, you know,
Yeah.
it's a new pressing plant for one thing. It probably has, this typical startup issues of any place.
Hmm.
And I don't know how easily they get quality, equipment or quality vinyl or, I don't know. It's
Yeah, and we
not.
all know it's not an easy process pressing records. 45 rumors. Yep. Getting
Yeah, I've
copies.
got two.
Yeah.
I got one I play and one sealed. Yeah.
Yeah. It's great. You can still get that for sticker. I
$50.
mean,
Yeah,
it
$50.
goes out of print, then it comes back, then it goes out. And, if you don't have it, get it. You won't be disappointed.
Yeah. Yeah. If
Unless you just don't like Fleetwood Mac. That's okay.
Yeah, well, of course, then we're out of the discussion, right? Yeah.
Yeah. Oh.
I just bought that. Oh God.
Hey, I'm just paying it back, Melinda. I can't even
Yeah.
tell you how many times I've bought something on your recommendation.
Right. I was just going to say, and
and I say thank you, but
Yes.
I just,
Right.
just sharing the VCLT, right?
It's a wallet emptying rotation that we go through here.
That's right.
It's
That's what we do.
It's cyclical with the emphasis on the sick. But
Yeah.
anyway.
It's a sickness. It's a sickness.
Yeah, that's about the way it is. But
Yeah.
well, that's great. Well,
Yeah.
we survived without any major glitches.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. It's
everything-
great.
Everything went off, and so great. Well, yeah. So this will be posted after it's done, and then people that couldn't make it can watch. And I really do appreciate Scott for joining us, and also for you all joining us as well. And we'll end with Melissa saying she's sorry, but thank you. Yeah,
No
that's
apologies necessary.
Yeah, no, it's what we do here, right? It's what we do. Enjoy it. And we'll work out our exchange program when you're in town to
Yes.
exchange our albums weekend after next, and think of our next adventure.
Yes.
We'll
We'll
have
have to,
one. So
we'll have to do. I like this format. This is cool. I mean, I'd like to see others do
Sure.
this format. I think it would be
yeah,
a little different, and I'm willing to jump on with anybody. I'm talking to you, Melinda. I'd love to do one shootout with you sometime.
yeah.
And,
Well,
I'd
this
jump
was
on with
Brad's.
Scott
This was
or anybody.
Brad. Yeah, this was Brad's first foray, so I think he did a great job for a first timer. I really do. I give you a lot of kudos.
Thanks, man. Thanks,
of
man.
kudos.
I'm just a fan, and enjoy listening to music and just the passion around it. So
Sure.
I'm just like everybody else here.
Cheers, guys. Thanks for joining. You all take care. Brad, talk to you soon. Have a great week. I'm headed to Houston tomorrow, so I'm going to be doing some vinyl digging.
Nice. Good luck. Good luck. Thanks everybody
All right,
for
see y'all.
joining.
Take
and
care.
all
Have a
the
nice
comments.
week. See y'all.
Appreciate
Take
it.
care. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.